I want to show you some ferns that don't look like ferns. These are ferns, many of them, that I'll show you, and except for those of you who are real experts in ferns will say, whoa, that's a fern, which is exactly what I said when I first was learning about ferns. So first let me show you, okay, what a standard fern is. So let's start. Everyone can recognize that this is a reasonable morpho of a fern. This is a Phlebodium sudorium, and they occur up in the canopy, but they also tend to show up in clearings growing out of the bases of trees, and they're a real pioneer species, and they've got this beautiful blue hue when they first come out. So that's a nice fern. And then over here, this is a Thelipterus, another fern that is easily recognized as a fern, with the individual pinnae, with the little spore holding devices on the underside of the leaf, the sori. But now let me show you some ferns from a variety of different places in the total fern phylogeny that just do not look like ferns. So let me start with one that just no way is this a fern, but in fact it is a fern. This is an Ophioglossum, and the genus name means serpent's tongue, and it's named after the fertile spike, which is this thing right here where all the spores are located on the end. This Ophioglossum is a fairly primitive fern, and it's not that common here at La Selva. There's a little patch of it over by the bike rack on the other side of the river, but I've never seen it in the forest. And it's got this interesting characteristic of having an incredible number of chromosomes. So it's got the most chromosomes of any organism, plant or animal, that's been looked at yet. So about 1,260 something. And this is another Ophioglossum right here, the same species. And then this one right here is also an Ophioglossum, a different species that Orlando found over by the meteorological station where we collect the temperature and rainfall data. And this species was not known to La Selva before Orlando found it a couple of months ago. It also doesn't look like a fern, but it is a fern. Now, let's look at the beautiful so-called shoestring ferns. This one right here, a well-named fern. This is a Vitaria lineata. And the way you know a fern is a fern, basically they have a separate gametophyte generation from the sporophyte generation, but most people aren't going to see those gametophytes. So the average person on the street might recognize the unfolding new leaf, which are these little fiddleheads. And all ferns, no matter what they are when they're adults, start off with these little fiddleheads. And that's a charming little piece of anatomy there. Then at La Selva, we've got 3 genera of shoestring ferns. The Vitaria, which is this one right here, and then this is Radiovitaria, which is a little thicker, and this is Radiovitaria stipitata. And then there's also a Polytenium, which I don't have on the table here, but we do have at La Selva. So those are the so-called vitarioid or shoestring ferns. Then this particular one right here, I really like. This is a Hemionetus palmatum. So it's a palm-like in the shape of the leaf, and I don't think this looks like a fern, but it is indeed a fern. And the little fronds, when they start off, are nice little fiddleheads. And one characteristic of this fern is that little buds on the underside of the leaf will turn into new little plants. So you can actually take these fertile leaves with the sori on the bottom surface of the leaves and just kind of stick them on a nice moist surface, and they'll sprout new plants.